Hey, everybody. Steve DeLaviaga, our Rise Up podcast. I'm with my human, Nikki Miller. By the way, a couple of Cal Lutheran Regal Kingsman graduates.
That's right.
We went there because of our academic prowess or lack thereof. Nikki got a student loan and bought her first house with it and made her roommates pay for it. I went there because I wanted to play basketball. So pretty much, but our Kingsmen are now in the national tournament.
That's right. And
Coach
winning,
White.
by the way.
And winning. By the way, they won the SCIAC. So Coach White, shout out. A couple of Cal Lutheran people, you know we love you.
So proud of you.
Yep. I take Nikki to the senior team dinner every year, and they don't ask me to go back and speak to the team, and I'm still leading scorer in the school's history, but Nikki gets asked to go motivate the team. So you're in for a treat. You're one of the best motivators in America. All right. We're both had a little bit of a spicy morning, so this is going to be a spicy podcast, so stay with us on this. So, Nick, let's just cut to it, man. And again, we're going to have to speak freely, speak open, be respectful, but be honest. You and I have had this talk over several beverages and a bottle or two of wine. There's not enough women in positions of leadership in real estate. Just flat, that's the answer, done. Yeah. Secondly, we got too many, not just women, but older, what I call fading winners. They're still giving us their resume from 1996 or 2005. And they're now in some, leadership role, but have very little to any knowledge of how the business actually operates today. And as a female, who is, as you know, one of the most followed women in real estate, has a huge podcast following, runs the one thing. Does it make you mad?
I don't know if mad is the word, Steve. I think sometimes, yes. I think what comes out, especially when you get me fired up, is mad.
Push buttons.
But I think above all, it's exasperation. I think that's the word that I look up and I just shake my head and say, they still don't get it.
Why?
They still don't get it. Because I know that 62% of the real estate industry is female.
Female.
And yet when I look up at most leadership teams, I don't see anybody that looks like me. And I think here's the challenge. A lot of companies will put women in places where they get the work done, the real work done. And yet...
where they run the business, but it's behind the
scenes.
Or behind a person who's the figurehead, but doesn't do the thing or even know how to do the thing. But this person's the one operating, right?
Right. And I think the challenge becomes they do that, and then they say, well, look at all the diversity we have. And yet, I look up and I say, I see that, and that's a form of progress. But the women still aren't in the room where decisions are being made on behalf of an industry that is majority female. And that's a real problem.
Well, let me tell you something. If it doesn't get fixed, you're going to see a real reckoning, because here are the facts and they are undisputed. You and I were talking before we came on air. We just picked 10 leaders you and I both know, we like, we interact, we work with. 8 of those 10 have, and I'm one of them, by the way, has a young lady behind you who absolutely run it. Yeah. Like, I will argue I at least know how to do the thing and what the thing is, but she absolutely runs it. And she could go do it on her own. She doesn't need me to do it, right? And most of the 8 to 10 we mentioned, same thing. So is it also a woman thing? Is it like, you guys got to stand up more and be like, hey, I want to go more front and center?
Absolutely. Okay. Absolutely. I think the burden is on both sides.
Okay.
I could never, with a straight face, sit and blame. I could never do that. Yeah. Because
not really your thing, by the way.
Well, it's also the burden is on females to take a stand and say, I deserve to sit at this table. And I think the big difference, Steve, in what I see is that females as a whole are often trained to ask. Or better yet, let me rephrase. Females are trained that asking isn't good. Like that you shouldn't ask for help.
You should be recognized first. You should be promoted first.
Right. You don't want to be a burden. You don't want to ask for help. You need to be able to do it all. We are the ones who receive that type of messaging. And it's just not true. It's just a bunch of untrue BS.
You can say bullshit on my podcast, by the way. We
Perfect.
checked it. It's fine.
It's just a bunch of untrue bullshit. And here's what matters. I'll never forget. I had a moment as a leader where a woman that we both know called me and said, "Man, Nikki, I just want a seat at the table so bad. I just want a seat at the table so bad. I want to be recognized for the hard work that I'm doing, and all I want is a seat at the table." And I said, "Here's the problem. You're never going to get it. Not like that."
Nope.
I said, because here's what the guys do. The guys don't ask. The guys see the table and they're like, "Oh, I belong there." And they go and they pull out a seat for themselves and they sit down. And if there isn't a seat for them, then they wiggle their way in there and they squash themselves in between two other people and they say, "I deserve to sit here." And women don't do that. We are waiting to be invited to the table. And if you do that, you're going to be waiting a long time. You want to sit at that table, you just go sit. You deserve to be there like everybody else does. We need you there. We need you there. We need you in places where decisions are being made because you are representative in this industry of the majority of people that you are making decisions on behalf of. It is vital that we change what leadership looks like in this industry.
Ooh. So your spice kind of came back. You're very PC. You're sitting there.
I was trying.
So prim and proper. Okay, good. All right. So I think it is true that way. And I think the hardest part is as men, it should be our job to identify talent, female talent, who have maybe gone through having to raise their children now and they're getting back in this workforce. Because I will tell you, every problem that we end up in our business, I generally go to one of my better operators who happens to be female and ask them to diagnose, and they dive so much deeper than I would have, than the male counterpart did that ran it. And then you start uncovering, oh, we're not even in the right hemisphere. We need to be over here, and we're here. And they would discover that, figure that out, then give a roadmap back to how you get there and make it better.
I mean, think about most females' resume, even if they aren't in the workplace. Like most females, historically speaking, generally speaking, if they are in the workplace, they're in the workplace and they're running their household.
Yep.
Do you know how many pieces go into running a household? Like I got to make sure all the kids are fed and in the right places and all the finances are in order and all of these spinning plates are spinning in the right directions at the same time. There's nobody better suited to run operations for complicated industries than women, because they understand what it feels like and what it looks like to build systematic processes, whether they know they're doing it or not. They do it naturally. And that's what makes them such amazing operators. But because no one has ever told them the story that they are incredible operators by nature, that they have forethought, that they're proactive, that they build systems without even recognizing it, that they recognize patterns without even knowing that they're doing it. It's why they're such incredible executioners. And yet, because nobody looks at them and says, "You're better at this. You are naturally better at this." We know statistically speaking, I'm not making this up. We know statistically speaking, women are better investors than men. Historically, their results are better than men. And yet, because people don't tell them the story that they are better with money, they make up that they aren't and therefore don't stand up and say, "Hey, I actually know what I'm doing. I'm really good at this." They don't take space and they don't take their seat at the table. And all I want for this industry, if I could leave any mark in the world, especially in the industry, is to show women that they do not have to be invited to the table, that they just need to come and sit down, and they are more deserving to be there, I would argue, than most of the other people who are
I
there.
need to also say this. I think some of us at the table need to quit letting people, the men who don't belong there, who are what I call much more sizzle and steak, fading winners that are giving us a resume from 2005. We have to start to say, we need to build a little bit different table.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Let's start doing it. I have this rule at Rise about our national network of speakers. You have to be a practitioner of your trade, not just a talker of your trade. That eliminates a lot of people because the practice of what we do, how different is it today for you than it was 3 years ago, 5 years ago, and in some cases, 8 months ago?
It's a world of difference. Yeah. I mean, our industry, the world and our industry is changing so fast, and you have to be nimble. You have to be able to change with it. The industry of a decade ago it's over. Like it is completely over. The way people are doing business, the leadership that they're looking for, the types of companies that they want to work with and alongside, it's just changing rapidly. And I think that the people who don't recognize that and the people who don't get ahead of it are probably going to lose.
I agree. And I also think, and I know you started this and I love this, Where I'm seeing our ladies on social media step more out of it. You can be beautiful and intelligent.
Yeah.
You can be attractive and be a world-class operator. It doesn't have to be like just sizzle on, walking around in a beautiful bathing suit. You can actually go be an operator who's making money, driving opportunity, delivering jobs, leading, and do that, and it's okay, right?
Here's the thing, like there's no rules. Like we're literally all making this up as we go. And so if that's true, it means that whatever rules that you're abiding by, like whatever rules you believe that you should be controlled by, literally don't exist. So if you take that out, if you take out the stories that people tell you, if you take out who you see in those rooms or at that table, so to speak, and you just start behaving in a way that feels natural to you, and you start actually following your instincts, and you start doing what you are good at and articulating what you're good at, I think that things start to change.
100%. And the reality is, let's be honest, things need to change. Enough with this. I see it in title. I see it in mortgage. I see it in real estate. Enough. Okay? And you're right. I love that you said that. It's a two-way thing.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
And remember this too. I think we've had a little bit of a year and a half of challenge, which has been good. It's weeded out some of those fading winners and lip sinkers, want to be rock stars.
Yeah.
Now I've had some folks continue to grind. I was telling Giles the other day, I've never worked harder for an average result. And I'm killing myself to get an average result.
Yeah.
Like, gosh dang, usually I work this hard. We're in the echelon. No, we're barely in the thing because it's hard right now to do that. Right now, when the market moves and you're working this hard, then you get the lift of the market. Let's talk about something else that's dear to our hearts a little bit, since it's our podcast. We talk about how we want to talk about leadership, just the general term of leadership. Because, again, I use that term fading winner. I'm so tired of leaders who are like, I'm just the vision guy. And I'm like, well, who does the thing? Because I don't want to talk to the vision guy. Yeah, we have to have vision. Let me tell you something. Vision is absolutely overrated. All due respect. You know what's not overrated? Culture, accountability, leadership, a massive passion for customer service and success, and then the leader doing the thing, because the speed of the leader will always be the speed of the pack. And if you're off trusting your vision while you're sailing around and letting that stuff doesn't work anymore, with all due respect. You know, I'll tell you, people in billion-dollar companies can't do it. They can't. So don't think in our little real estate entrepreneurial world, you can just do it. Because in the end, Bezos needs to leave Amazon to do it. Because to stay there and be like, I'm just the vision guy, it doesn't work. So as a leader, I love player coaches. I love people that actually know who their people are, what they're doing, and how they're doing it. Give me the 2 or 3 things in leadership that make you better and different in your mind.
One of my number one values is authenticity. And I would feel very inauthentic. I would feel like a liar if I told people to do things and I didn't myself exhibit that. In other words, what that can look like in leadership is you have to have forethought. And if you're going to bring me a problem, you also have to bring me a solution. And you have to show up and work on what's most important every day. I mean, all these principles that we abide by, I abide by. Like I would feel inauthentic telling people in my organization to do that if I didn't myself exemplify it. It would feel odd to me.
Well, it wouldn't be a very good culture. Because it would be unaligned.
Yeah. I mean, I am unwilling to tell you to do something that I myself wouldn't do. I'm unwilling to tell you to become someone that I myself haven't already become or would be willing to become to get to where I want to go. It just wouldn't work for me. And that to me in leadership is so important, that if you're going to stand up and tell me how to behave or how to do something or how to win, you yourself have to exhibit those traits. You have to exhibit all of the things that you're telling people to do. Otherwise, you're just going to be found out. Like, it's just a matter of time until you're found out, until people say, oh, they say this thing, they don't do this thing, and therefore I don't respect them. It may not ever come out that way.
But that's what it is.
But that's actually what happens. Like when you lose followers in leadership, which is really what you're trying to gain. You're trying to gain people that you can influence and people that are willing to follow you. And I fundamentally do not believe that people follow leaders who cannot lead themselves.
Well, I call it aligned authenticity versus unaligned authenticity. Like you get, we're going to be authentic selves, and then you're not. Well, you're unaligned. When you're an aligned, authentic leader. Whether you like the way that person is authentic or not, you respect it.
Yeah.
Because they're aligned. They feel authentic to me and real. This happens. Good. What's another trait that you look for?
I mean, I want to go back to your idea of vision, because I wouldn't say, I think sometimes when I really talk about operations and scale and systems, people think that I don't think vision is important. And I very much do. I think vision is vital. You just can't only have vision. And the challenge is that so many people get stuck being the visionary of their company. And I sort of laugh that I've come across more people than I can count who have beautiful, magnificent, incredible visions that will literally never see the light of day.
This is what pisses me off. I've gotten into this thing now, and I'm so tired of, like I always ask people, I think you should be able to describe what you do in one word.
Yeah, I mean,
One word.
Well, it's they have the vision of what they want to have happen, but they haven't worked toward it. They haven't started it. They're unwilling to do the work to attain it, which means that it's just this magnificent movie that lives in your head that we will never get to see. And by the way, it's a tragedy to me. Like, some people tell me these ideas where I'm like, yeah, that's a great idea. You should go do that. Like, that's a really good idea. You should go do that. But they won't. They won't do the work to be able to get there. So
100%.
so I don't even know. I think that probably is an alignment with my
What's your
first
one
principle.
word? What's your, if you, the lead syndicate, what's your one word that you would say?
Leverage.
Yeah, okay. So rise, we say growth.
Yeah, it's leverage for the lead syndicate for sure.
Yeah, and so to me, you can own that space of leverage. If you're a single agent and you want to feel like you've got the resources of a team, but keep your own brand, your own name.
Nobody does that like we do.
Yeah,
Nobody.
Do the best. That's what I say. I love it.
I think another principle in leadership for me is curiosity.
I do love Gary for this. I think Gary's,
absolutely.
I think he's a beast. at this.
Absolutely.
Smartest guy in the world in real estate. Literally longest serving, smartest guy in the world in real estate.
Yeah.
Still every day. Tell me more about that.
It's
Let's dig
absolutely
deeper
something
in
I've
that.
learned from him.
Yeah.
He's the smartest guy in real estate because he's willing to be the dumbest guy in real estate. Right? And dumb's not the right word, but he's willing to look dumb in the moment, right? Like, he's willing to ask the questions. He's willing to slow down. He's willing to say, explain it to me like I'm 5.
Yeah, that's what
And he will
that's his
stay
line,
there,
right?
but even with me,
He'll take
he will
notes
stay
while you're
there.
talking about it.
Yeah, like I've been in meetings with him where he will stay there too long, sometimes to my frustration, until he absolutely gets it. And then when he says it back to you, you can say it even better than you can. It's amazing.
He's one of those, his brain works in just the best way.
Yeah, certainly something I've learned from him, and yet I've really taken that curiosity with businesses, curiosity with models, curiosity with people.
Yes, you are so many things, but the way that you continue to want to get better as you've grown this has been fun to watch.
Thank you.
Okay, let's talk about I'm gonna say tough love.
Yeah.
And then we're gonna go to influence, because I think as a leader, and the world is a little different. We have to be conscious that things that you could say in the 80s or 90s or early 2000s as a tough, demanding, we have to sometimes now have a little bit different conversation with that, or a different way in which you deliver that to the employee status. But I think great leadership has accountability attached below, because if you have the right culture, your employees and or partners want to be accountable with you.
For sure. I mean, I think where most leaders get it wrong is I tell leaders often, it's not fair to hold people accountable to something you never told them you were going to hold them accountable to.
Unbelievable.
So I think that's where you absolutely have to start. If you come to work with me, Steve, we go through a whole onboarding experience where we talk about what your job description is, we talk about what our culture is, we talk about what our values are. And then one of the most important rules I have in my ecosystem is we call it the rule of 3. And the rule of 3 goes like this. If you ask me a question that you can look up in our operations manual, find on Google or find on YouTube more than 3 times, it's a fireable offense. And most people would look at that and be like, oh my God, you monster. But
so unfair.
Yeah, but it's not, because we not only do we give them 3 chances, but we make it so crystal clear when somebody onboards with us that if you ask literally anybody who's a staff member in my organization, what's the rule of 3, they could articulate it just like I did. And so therefore, we've never had to actually do that.
Right.
And what this has bred in my organization is people that don't bring me a bunch of problems. They don't bring me a bunch of problems that they could find the answers to.
Well, so many people confuse being busy with being productive.
Yeah.
And the whole got a minute, can I pop in, got a minute, terrible, kills productivity. Secondly, if they can always come to you and ask you questions, then you've become Google.
Yeah.
I don't want to be Google. Google already exists.
Well, I need them to be able to make decisions, smart decisions when I am not around. Like that is a vital component of building anything. I need them to be able to make these decisions when I am not with them. They absolutely have to be able to do that. And if I haven't trained them to do that, if I haven't trained them to think like I think, then I've failed them. It's not their fault. It's my fault. And so that's an absolute fundamental principle for me, that's my gift to them. And it's also my gift to myself, because I think what most leaders don't recognize, and this goes back to coming from curiosity, is that people come to them with those stupid questions, not because they're stupid, but because they either want that leader's attention, which I think comes up a lot, like they just need some attention.
Correct.
Or they have gotten so used to using that leader as Google that it just becomes habit. And so I'll slow down with someone if they infringe on the rule, and I'll say, this is unlike you. Do you just need my attention right now? Do you want to spend some time? Because that happens in leadership.
100%.
Like sometimes when you're moving really fast, people want to be with you and they don't always show up the way that you would think they would show up to spend that time with you. I see that all the time in leadership. I'll coach leaders and I'll say, I think that person just needs a little attention. And they'll say, what do you mean? I'm like, people need attention, especially our people that are working so hard for us. They just want to know that they're on track. And typically really driven leaders aren't going to slow down enough to say, hey, you're doing a good job, or you did that really well, or this is going well. Like for the most part, most leaders don't say anything unless things are going sideways. And that's the wrong time to have the conversation. I always think about every relationship I have as a bank account. Every relationship I have as a bank account. When I have to bring you hard news or tough love or an accountability conversation, I got red in my ledger, right? And I can only get so much red before someone says, I don't want to work here, or I don't want to be a part of this, or like, I don't want to be with this person, or whatever that is. So alternatively, I also have to make sure I'm putting green in my bank account. You do a great, I've learned a lot from you doing this in relationships. I am constantly thinking about how can I put green in this bank account in my relationship? How can I do something for them?
You do a very good job of that.
Thank you. I really have learned from you. And like, how can I put green in this bank account? How can I, when I show up in my office today, how can I show my team members, hey, I recognize how hard you're working. I recognize that you're doing this well. And that gives me permission when they're not doing something very well for me to coach them.
You can only coach them as hard as you love them. So if you're going to have somebody that you don't deal with much, you can then not criticize or coach them much. But if you love them and they are loved and they know they're loved and they're valued and they're respected and they made it better, you can coach them just as hard and they'll want you to do it. To the point where if you don't coach them hard, they're like, don't give me that. Give me the truth. What was it? They want that.
They'll invite it.
Smart ones always want a challenge for better. Okay, I have a rule in this, and what she said with the green and red, I call it the 3-chip rule. I'm in Vegas, so let's play the Vegas chip out. Everybody starts with 3 chips. Hey, Steve, this new lead program I want to bring to everybody. I'm going to bring the lead program out. We're going to do it. It doesn't work. I take a chip away. Okay? Now, I do another thing. I just want to hire this guy. This guy's amazing. I want to bring this person in. We hire them, and that doesn't work out. Well, now there's 2 chips left. When there's 3 chips left, we no longer have the same vision. If we don't have the same vision and I'm the boss, you can't work here anymore.
Yeah.
Conversely, when you say, hey, Steve, I have this new idea I want to add to the product, and it actually have 2 of our customers like, oh my God, this has been great. I've actually added 2 closings. This is phenomenal. Now I give you a chip. Now you have 4. So either you're building one or you're being diminished. So that tells people, to her point, don't come with every idea unless you've vetted it. You have a math equation. You have an evidence of success, and you know it's going to win for the customer.
It's also exhausting. Like if you're just ideating all over everybody, you're just tiring everybody.
Well, you know what you are? You're like, hey, you like this? Do you like this? Do you like this? Do you like this? Anything you see, anything you like? No one wants to be sold that way.
I also think a lot of people miss this when they're trying to get successful people on their team. And what I mean by that is I see so many people who want to like pitch these ideas they have to really successful people, and they do it all wrong. They just bring the idea. And a successful person doesn't have time to get into your head, understand it, think about execution. You have to bring the idea, and then you have to not only show a history of execution, you also have to say, and this is how we're going to execute it, start to finish, or as far as you can get, right? And I think that's something that a lot of people miss.
100%. The last part, I want to talk about leadership because, again, I'm going to give you an example of why this is why she's who she is. When leaders invite people to things, masterminds, events, dinners, the measure of how the people you invite come will tell you how much influence or respect you've earned. So I always say, when somebody goes, I go, I need you to get 5 people to come to this event. This person goes, oh my gosh, I can never get 5 people. Or worse, they get 5 people to sign up and no one comes. You don't have any influence then. Conversely, how many people from your lead syndicate are here at Reunion?
25.
And you have a lead syndicate dinner tonight, and you invited 25, and if they had plans, they could do if they wanted to. How many people confirmed that are coming to dinner tonight?
25.
Earned influence. The influence that you earn is the ability you have to impact people. If you have an earned influence, you have less impactable. How do you feel about that?
I think that back to leadership, I think people are attracted to leaders that are authentic and who do what they say they're going to do when they say they're going to do it.
100%.
I would
Consistency
hope,
matters.
Yeah, I would hope and I would offer in my organization that everyone, if not the majority, I would hope that they would say, I'm sure I have many flaws as a leader, and yet I would hope that everybody would be able to say about me, Nikki does what she says she's going to do when she says she's going to do it. And I think that builds trust, and I think that builds camaraderie, and I think that builds culture. That I'm not just telling them these ideas, or I'm not promising things that never come to fruition. I'm telling them things because I intend to create them into reality, or because I'm already doing it. And I think people connect with that and want to be around it more. And I believe that that's how we've built the culture that we have, that I make promises to people and I keep them.
I cannot hear what you say because what you do shouts in my ears.
Yeah.
We have too much talk and not enough action. And if I can say, in a lot of the corporate worlds I was involved in, I've worked for Fortune 250s and Fortune 150s. Sometimes the guys that talk are the ones that stay, because the doers don't want to be around just talkers. They want to do. And if you make doing hard, they find their way to somewhere else. All right, in closing, we're looking here. Let's take 2024. Let's do a little crystal balling, right? We had a January that was sexy for a minute. Rates dropped, deals went up, things went up right away, right?
Surprise.
Feb a little slower, but it's still, I don't think we can keep the American housing public pent up anymore. They got to get out, get that equity out, pay for stuff, and do stuff. I look at 2024 to be 600,000 to 1 million transactions more than 2023. What are you feeling like?
I think it will not be as challenging as 2023, but I think it'll be close. I don't think the market's going to change all that much. I think we're in an election year, which is always a little dicey. For no reason, by the way. Like, there is no, I always laugh when agents come to me with the objection of, somebody just said it's an election year, and so they're going to wait. And I say, awesome. Here's the best question you can ask someone who gives you that objection. What's going to change depending upon who becomes president? And the answer is literally nothing. Like, literally nothing is going to change. Nothing about my plans to buy or sell my home is going to change depending upon whose name gets put up at the end of the election. It literally doesn't matter. So
and then we're going to have gnashing of teeth. People are going to be crying or angry either way. And literally, none of it really matters.
But if you look at the historical data over time, literally nothing changes.
Well, you know what? Your friends are still going to be your friends. Your family's still going to be your family.
Yeah.
This is where they focus your
Above all,
energy
the
on
real
things
estate
you can change.
market is still going to be the real estate market. Nothing is going to change. So in that context, there's always a volatility in an election year. Always, it's just human nature. Historically, we can see the numbers in that. But overall, I don't see any data that points me toward that we're going to have a worse year than last year, and I don't see a whole lot of data that points me toward we're going to have
don't think lower interest
an exceptionally
rates mean
better.
more transactions?
It will. I just don't think it's going to be the jump in transactions that everybody think it's going to be.
A lot of bet on that.
Yeah, there's a lot of betting on that. I don't see that. There's a lot of people who are smarter than me who might say otherwise, but I'm not seeing something that's going to be a monumental difference between 2023 and 2024. So I think agents should continue to follow their playbook. And I think they should continue to be in front of the people who have to buy and sell homes. That is never going to change. And by the way, that doesn't change whether the market is what I would quote good or the market I would quote bad, challenging or easy. Like that just doesn't change. And so above all, it's doing the right things and finding the motivated, and you're going to have a successful business. It doesn't matter what market you're in.
100%. I will say this, if you're looking for leverage, think of the Lead Syndicate and get a chance to not only be in Nikki's amazing process for leverage, but also her aura for leadership. It will help you. If you're thinking about Rise, growth, Rise Up, Rise VIP listings, #1 listing program in America today. See you soon. Thanks, Nick.
Thank you.